Finally, it appears we may be getting something in the WNBA that some of us have been longing and calling for. We know the referees were an absolute joke in this league. They were awful. They didn't call any fouls. You had people getting their nose busted open, blood all over the floor with no whistles being blown. We watched Caitlin Clark get the living life beat out of her every game, being targeted and not getting any foul calls. The girl can't get to the free throw line to save her life because they refuse to call fouls.
Adam Silver just dropped a bombshell, and behind closed doors, the WNBA commissioner is reportedly losing it. After 2 years of watching Caitlin Clark get targeted with little to no protection, the NBA commissioner has officially stepped in, announcing that qualified NBA referees are being sent to the WNBA. This is the intervention nobody saw coming, and it's exposing just how badly the league failed to protect its biggest star. Missed calls, ignored fouls, and non-stop physical targeting pushed things to a breaking point. Now, Adam Silver has made it clear, enough is enough. So, what exactly just happened? Why did the NBA have to step in? And how does this decision completely change the future of the WNBA? Before we break it all down, drop a comment and tell me, do you think Adam Silver stepped in because the WNBA proved it couldn't handle basic officiating on its own?
I think is the biggest thing, just as far as the product on the floor, because a lot of people talk about physicality, a lot of people talk about the referees. I actually did a deep dive in one of my episodes talking about like who the referees are calling to, essentially, and where the W gets their referees. But as far as the product, because at the end of the day, fans are not going to stick around if it's not a good product, period.
Right.
Like, they have to be there for the basketball, and I think a lot of casual fans got pulled into the W because Caitlin had such a different game that was, like, just very, very exciting to watch, and she's an incredible player. So they're there. Now they're seeing this product. They're like, oh, this is cool. There's other players that I'm, like, getting super invested in. But a lot of people have called out like physicality, referees. Have you heard anything from players, owners, like any of your sources about them actively working on improving the...
All right, here's what just went down, and it's massive. Adam Silver, the NBA commissioner, has officially announced that the NBA is sending trained referees to officiate WNBA games starting next season. This isn't a suggestion. It isn't a partnership. And it definitely isn't optional. This is the NBA stepping in and taking control because the WNBA completely failed at officiating for years. And according to multiple sources, WNBA Commissioner Cathy Engelbert is absolutely furious behind the scenes. Let's be very clear about what this actually means. The NBA just publicly said, you can't handle one of the most basic responsibilities of running a professional basketball league, so we're doing it for you. That's not help, that's humiliation. This is the parent organization stepping in and exposing the WNBA's incompetence in one of the most fundamental parts of the game, fair and consistent officiating. Missed calls, ignored fouls, reckless physical play, and zero accountability pushed things to a breaking point. And honestly, they're right to step in.
I mean, officiating, like, I know everyone thinks, like, this is all about Caitlin and the way Caitlin is officiated. Across the league, coaches, like, this has been an issue. Like, go back.
We saw Coach Cheryl Reeve crash out.
Cheryl Reeve is the crash out queen.
Over the officiating. Yeah, it was like one of the best crash outs ever.
But, like, go back to, like Candace's rookie year. There's a game she gets laid out, like, and multiple. Like, go back to all of these players. It's crazy what they all went through. And so obviously there are more eyes on the league. So there's the way that the physicality around Caitlin was obviously layered in the sense of, like, she's this phenom coming into the league, like, everyone's talking about her. So we've got all these vets who, again, it's the same when Candace came into the league, when Diana, when there's a generational player that comes into the league, and it's in men's sports too, the messaging is, okay, this is our league, like, welcome, you know. It's like, and so I think across the league,
the officiating in the WNBA has been an absolute disaster for years, and this isn't new. Go back and watch Candace Parker's rookie season. Look at what Diana Taurasi went through in her early years. Generational talents have always been beaten up with little to no protection from the refs. The difference? Nobody was watching. For years, the league could get away with inconsistent, sloppy officiating because the fan base was too small to make real noise. Missed calls didn't trend. Bad decisions didn't go viral. There was no pressure to fix it. Then Caitlin Clark showed up and everything changed. She brought millions of new fans to the league. People who had never watched a single WNBA game before were suddenly tuning in every night. And what did they see? They saw the league's biggest star getting mauled on the court while referees swallowed their whistles. They saw blood on the floor with no call. They saw cheap shots, late hits, and off-ball checks with zero consequences. And suddenly, the entire world was watching the WNBA expose itself in real time.
And in that respect, I think the attention on the league now is forcing the league's hand, because all these years that they've been like, yeah, we're doing enough. Like, again, we've been asking in press conferences for years, like, what's up with this thing, right? And so now, again, the microscope is so fixated on the league that they have to answer these questions and they have to do better. And so, yes, the officiating has been a problem. It was a problem. It will continue to be a problem until they treat the hiring of these officials as again, the same way they treat the players in terms of making this like a lucrative place to be. You can't expect the best officiating if the salary structure is not great, if the way you're pooling these officials is like not great. There's so many institutional issues and have been with the officiating. There's a committee now that has been put together. The competition meetings, they spoke about the officiating committee. That's something that I've got to double back on and see how.
And these new fans started asking real questions. Why isn't that a foul? Why is nobody protecting her? Why are the refs letting defenders play like this is UFC instead of basketball? The WNBA couldn't hide behind "this is just how we play" anymore, because casual fans were comparing what they saw to NBA games and college basketball, and the gap was impossible to ignore. So Adam Silver watched this circus unfold for 2 straight years and finally said enough. Now, the NBA is stepping in and taking over officiating because the WNBA has proven it can't or won't fix the problem themselves. And that's where the Real story begins. Why didn't the WNBA fix this on their own? Why did it take the NBA stepping in to force change? Here's what really happened. The WNBA has known its officiating was broken for over a decade. Players complained. Coaches exploded. Cheryl Reeve had legendary meltdowns over blown calls. But the league kept pretending everything was fine. They said, "We're doing enough," while ignoring the problem. Why? Because fixing it would cost money. They didn't want to invest in better referees. They didn't want to improve training. They didn't want to raise standards.
Wrong.
Yeah, where's the disconnect?
Right. And it brings me back to that game against the Fever and the Sun. And again, the fact that there was, even within that game, there was no consistency with the calls. And like Marina checking Caitlin to the floor, like we can laugh. Like Marina's a crash out queen, and I have the utmost respect for Marina, and I've covered her. I think her style, like her aggressiveness, I love that, because that's kind of like how I am in my real life. I'm a very like aggressive person, but like to not call these things appropriately,
she should have been kicked. Like that
Right.
should have been, and that should have been the.
Let's talk about specific examples of just how bad WNBA officiating became under Caitlin Clark, because people need to understand why this intervention was necessary. Kennedy Carter lowered her shoulder and checked Caitlin to the floor when the ball wasn't even in play. The refs didn't call anything in real time. It only got upgraded to a flagrant foul after the league office stepped in. That's not just bad officiating, that's unacceptable. Then came Marina Mabrey, who blindsided Caitlin and slammed her to the floor in a game against the Sun. A blatant cheap shot that should have resulted in an immediate ejection. Instead, the refs swallowed their whistles and let it go. Annie Costabile, who covers the league closely, later went on Rachel Dida's show and said Marina should have been tossed from that game. But once again, nothing. Time after time, officials allowed players to target the league's biggest star with zero consequences. And the inconsistency made it even worse. Refs would call ticky-tack fouls on one end, then completely ignore blatant flagrant contact on the other. There was no standard, no consistency, no accountability. Players and coaches had no idea what was a foul and what wasn't, because the rules changed from quarter to quarter and game to game. That's not just bad officiating. That's dangerous officiating. Landing space fouls exist for a reason. When defenders invade a shooter's landing area, it leads to ankle injuries, knee injuries, and career-threatening damage. Those are supposed to be automatic calls. But WNBA refs were missing them constantly. Then in the playoffs, Alyssa Thomas took out Nafisa Collier's ankle while going for a steal. The refs ruled it clean because she got the ball. But that's not what the rulebook says. If you can't get the ball without making contact that affects the player, it's a foul. Even NBA officials who reviewed it later said it was clean, and they were wrong based on the written rule. They cut corners on officiating, just like they cut corners on everything else. Then Caitlin Clark became the most popular player in women's basketball, and suddenly, the spotlight was unavoidable. Millions of fans were watching every game. Every bad call went viral. Every cheap shot sparked outrage. Every missed whistle became national conversation. The league's incompetence was on full display, and they still did nothing. So Adam Silver stepped in and did it for them. And now, WNBA Commissioner Cathy Engelbert is reportedly furious because this move makes her look completely incompetent. And based on the evidence, she is. She's been commissioner while all of this was happening. She watched Caitlin Clark get targeted for 2 years. She failed to protect the league's biggest star. She allowed dangerous play to continue. And she refused to hold officials accountable. Now, the NBA is taking control and exposing what the WNBA tried to hide. And this officiating disaster? It's just one example. The CBA negotiations are a mess. Expansion plans are moving at a snail's pace. Marketing has been terrible. And now, she can't even handle basic officiating without the NBA stepping in to save her. That's not leadership. That's failure. That mistake happened because WNBA referees are not properly trained, even on their own rules. And now Adam Silver is fixing that. Annie Costabile also revealed something crucial. The salary structure for WNBA officials is terrible. When you don't pay refs well, you don't attract elite talent. You attract whoever is willing to work cheap. For years, the WNBA cut corners on officiating. They hired underqualified refs to save money, and the product on the floor suffered. Now millions of new fans are watching, comparing WNBA officiating to the NBA, and the gap is embarrassing. Missed calls, inconsistency, lack of player protection. It all stands out. So now the league is being forced to fix it, except they're not fixing it themselves. Adam Silver is fixing it for them. And that's what makes this so humiliating for Commissioner Cathy Engelbert. The WNBA just went through intense CBA negotiations, with players demanding better conditions, respect, and safety. Protecting players should have been non-negotiable. And yet, Engelbert couldn't even deliver on basic officiating standards. So now the NBA is stepping in and doing her job for her. The league's defense is, this has always been a problem, not just with Caitlin Clark. And that's true. But that proves the point. The WNBA allowed broken officiating for over a decade and never fixed it. They only care now because Caitlin Clark brought mainstream attention and exposed everything. That's reactive leadership, not proactive leadership. Adam Silver understands something the WNBA never fully grasped. You protect your stars. In the NBA, superstars get protected whistles because they drive ratings, revenue, and growth. You protect your investments. The WNBA didn't. They allowed defenders to maul their biggest stars and then wondered why casual fans lost interest. Now the NBA is forcing them to adopt basic professional standards that every serious sports league already follows. Aya Wilson gets some protection because she's spent years adapting her game to earn calls. Caitlin Clark didn't even get that chance. She was targeted nightly with no protection. The player bringing millions of fans into the league was being beaten up and officials allowed it. That's terrible business. And it's even worse leadership. Adam Silver saw it, stepped in, and fixed it himself. Because when officiating loses consistency, the entire league loses credibility. Players stop trusting refs. Coaches stop trusting refs. Fans get confused. And the product becomes unwatchable. By sending trained NBA officials, that credibility problem gets fixed immediately. And as Annie Costabile pointed out on Rachel Dida's show, when obvious fouls weren't being called, the national media turned it into tribal drama, rookies versus veterans, instead of having honest conversations about systemic officiating failures. That's how broken officiating doesn't just damage the game, it poisons the entire narrative. And now, the NBA has finally had enough. The WNBA let this situation spiral so badly that everything became about one player, instead of fixing the real problem: broken officiating. Kennedy Carter's cheap shot should have been called the same whether it happened to Caitlin Clark or anyone else. The refs failed at basic officiating, and the league failed to hold them accountable. Now Adam Silver is stepping in to clean up the mess, because Cathy Engelbert couldn't or wouldn't do it herself. Yes, the WNBA formed an officiating committee after last season. But Annie Costabile said she's skeptical real change will happen because the league talks about improvement but rarely follows through. And that skepticism is completely justified. The WNBA forms committees, releases statements, and makes promises, but nothing actually changes. That's why Adam Silver had to step in and force the issue. The solution isn't complicated. Pay officials better so you attract qualified referees. Invest in training so refs know the rules and apply them consistently. Create real accountability for missed calls. And most importantly, protect your star players because they drive growth. The NBA already does all of this. Now they're bringing that structure and expertise to the WNBA, whether Cathy Engelbert likes it or not. Caitlin Clark is too valuable to the league's future to allow defenders to beat her up with no consequences. If she suffers a serious injury because refs refuse to call obvious fouls, the WNBA gets set back years. Adam Silver understands that. Cathy Engelbert either doesn't or simply didn't care enough to fix it. So now the NBA is doing it for her. The fact that it took outside intervention for the WNBA to finally take officiating seriously is embarrassing for everyone involved in league leadership. They should have fixed this years ago, when players and coaches were begging for change. Instead, they waited until it became a national PR disaster, and even then, they couldn't solve it themselves. Adam Silver had to rescue them. So there you have it. Adam Silver stepped in and took control of WNBA officiating because Cathy Engelbert proved she can't protect Caitlin Clark or run a competent league. The NBA sending trained referees is justice for Caitlin and every other player who got targeted while the WNBA did nothing. If you think this exposes just how incompetent WNBA leadership has been, smash that like button and subscribe. And let me know in the comments, should Cathy Engelbert be fired for letting this disaster happen?